Tesla has now crossed $1,200 a share and is now $1,300 a share bound, is our story for today, and some of the whys behind why this is occurring and what we can expect next. Thanks for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. Your presence and support on Patreon makes all the difference in the world, and the viability and the success of this channel is greatly appreciated. We also want to note this is a copyrighted broadcast. Any use of the material presented here is prohibited without written permission. And then finally, please take time to like and subscribe if you would. As you can see, I'm back in the studio. This is our restart, and we were trying to get the song in that we promised for so long. And thank you for all the requests and inquiries as we went from just one note all the way to a song because of your comments. So, as you know, today was another monster day for Tesla. You know, up basically $100 if you add in particularly the after hours. You know, just a totally terrific day, and I want to congratulate all of you on your choice to invest, buy Tesla's products, and support the company in general. And we're happy to be a part of that at Teslafaninsight. So the question is, you know, we talked about the fact that on many occasions that there are different constituencies with different amount of capital. So my general thought process here is there's this sort of interesting idea. We're going to be over the next couple of weeks probably doing a show that I call it Watch Out for the A-Boys. And what this means is that there are bonds at different levels, and like there are AA or AAA bonds, there are BB bonds, and then there are sub-investment grade bonds, which is what Tesla was for a long time. And so what's interesting is that, yeah, you can enter the S&P, so that gives you a wider pool of investors that own. But all of a sudden, when you start cleaning up your balance sheet with little or no debt, and you're growing dramatically, there are all these pots of money that Tesla was in the no way we'll even think about it, your category. And all of a sudden now, those pots of money have come in and are now sitting there saying, hey, you know, Tesla's entered a new, unique realm. So usually when a company gets to a certain size, the growth rate actually slows down, even if it's continuing to get bigger. In Tesla's case, not only is the stock getting bigger or the company getting bigger, but its growth rate is actually accelerating. Now, this is accentuated by the fact that we've been staying in touch with some friends that are at the factory, and one of the things they noted to us was that, yeah, the factory may be, you know, Fremont may be a 600,000 vehicle a year situation, but when we look at, for example, Austin is triple the size. Germany is sort of rivaling Austin on size, not as big, but you know, if you're 3 times the size of one facility and that facility is producing 600,000 vehicles, once you ramp full bore at your new facility, you have all this new technology that supports being able to put throughput through those factories at an ungodly pace compared to where you were a fairly short period of time ago. So we're, I believe, in a fairly sweet spot for Tesla. Not only have they delivered great numbers, not only have they checked the "we are growing" box, and I think it's kind of funny because the hedge funds, when you look at what happened to the stock price for the second time in a row, were saying, hey, great numbers, but not sizzling. Well, once we went into the 3-day rule, the folks were actually saying, well, guess what? We know the hedge funds well, but we kind of don't care because now that Tesla's hit certain operating parameters on profit, revenue, amount of debt they're carrying, et cetera, growth rate, all these different statistics, we now have funds that are required to invest in those businesses. So, or in those businesses that fit those criteria. And Tesla is sort of knocking it out of the park. The other thing that's going on is, I believe, is that there are further data points that are fueling the stock continuing to accelerate. And to be honest with you, I felt like by now Tesla would have slowed down to almost nothing and stopped growing. But the reality is that we've kind of had somewhat the opposite in terms of how the stock price is playing out, i.e., there are a large number of investors who are currently in position where they're sitting there saying, hey, Tesla is still a good value based on the demonstrated growth that they've had in place. So to some extent, you could say that there's a Gordon Johnson battle between other analysts in terms of how the numbers are going to work. And as this battle between these two entities is kind of figured out, and clearly it's going totally in Tesla's favor, away from guys like Gordon Johnson, a lot of the funds are now saying, now wait a second, we were told that Tesla would be in trouble under the competitive pressure from large OEMs around the world by now. And not only they're not under competitive pressure, and not only are they growing rapidly, but there are a lot of competing entities, as we all know, that don't have the infrastructure of charging, of vehicles without severe battery fire problems. You know, there are all these ways in which the numbers are working great for Tesla and working really bad for competing entities. Now, another piece of data I thought was interesting from a reverse standpoint is think about the fact that there's a $12,500 EV tax credit that's on the table for unionized entities. Well, on one hand, you have to say that gives them an incentive for consumers to purchase their vehicles. That's absolutely the case. The problem that this suggests, though, is that if they didn't have this amount of cash to work with, they're at risk of going bankrupt. And so the question is, how will consumers respond to this large subsidy as products are being brought to market by competing firms? And the answer to that, I believe, is shown by the Chevy Bolt, which is it had like a $10,000 cost advantage because GM was willing to take that loss, but it still got outsold dramatically by Tesla. So all the strategy ideas that the OEMs are using to win, including getting government support, including getting discounts on their vehicles relative to Tesla's cost price, they're simply getting smashed. And so where does this take us? Well, I believe where it takes us is the fact that there are some really smart people that are on the analyst community who've all upgraded Tesla. And all those upgrades are having an impact. Now, I have to say that I really kind of didn't want to make this show because there's a concept in football called outkicking the coverage. And when you look at how well Tesla's done, it is now closing in on all the numbers that the analysts have said they're comfortable with Tesla being priced at. So, I think that clearly you want to enjoy your profits if you're on the long hold side. And if you're on the option side, I think you really have to move into leaps or further out because I think that, again, if we go back to the numbers we talked about before, multiply the growth rate of Tesla times the amount they're earnings, and that tells you what the stock price should be. And so the analysts kind of use this as a ballpark sense of what the price of the stock should be. And I would say that, we're almost at the point where we're reaching the numbers in the short term that have been targeted for Tesla. We're kind of running out of reasons why this thing should keep running. But if it's going to keep running, I'm hoping you keep making some money here. And congratulations in doing so and being a committed person to Tesla as it does its thing. So, where does it end? Well, I think that what will start happening is that Tesla's stock price will increase, but it'll start slowing down and consolidating where you'll see some ups, some down, some ups, some down. and then the increase on a daily basis or decrease maybe in that, $20 to $30 a share range. I thought it would happen 30 to 50 points ago. I'd have to say I was completely wrong. The run has been monstrous, but there's a lot of really fundamental data out there to support where the stock is currently and consolidating someplace in that 50-point range here. We're not there yet. So I just wanted to, in general, review what was going on, why, and what I think is going to happen. And I think consolidation will occur, but I only see it occurring after we get to that 50-point, or below, more in that 30-point range is when we know we're consolidating. But for now, enjoy your profits, maybe pick up a few calls that allow you to make some money, and congratulations as you do so. So I guess the final thing I wanted to cover is the A-boys comment I made before. There are certain firms whose bond funds only buy AAA rated bonds. And so those funds tend to, funds tend to coordinate in a certain way. And that way is that they try to link stock price to AAA or high rated bonds. And that combination tends to be really good companies. And those funds tend to make people a lot of money at very low risk. Obviously, Apple is one of the entities that fit that bill. So that's one of the catalysts on the bond stock side that is there for Tesla to go with the opening of the new factories. Now, we have a show coming up on what's going on with the Cybertruck. It's been pushed back an extra year. I've actually met several customers who are waiting on their trucks that have not gotten them. And I'm hopeful that we move forward and get those out earlier than expected, but that unique body is definitely a problem. So, any rate, I'm actually looking forward to comments from you. Don't forget we have some SpaceX shares if there's interest. We also want to note that copyrighted show. We also wanted to note that we're trying to get to the song that we promised, and appreciate your support and indulgence in that regard. Any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. I just had a chance to visit Tesla's factory and headquarters. We're going to post some photos on our Facebook page, as well as start running it in the back of our regular show for you guys to get a feel for kind of what's going on that we've seen when we visited the factory and Stanford. So at any rate, we want to lastly thank you for liking and subscribing. And we also wanted to note our health tips. Don't forget, prior to lovemaking, no more than a salad to allow yourself to have blood flow primarily to your extremities and not to your stomach in that zone. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks again for joining us. Tschüss, mach's gut, au revoir, lehitrahot, Hebrew, Choda Hafiz, Farsi, Salam, Shalom, Namaste, Hindi, Konbanwa, Japanese, Tarasi say hello in Russian, Das Vidanya, goodbye in Russian, hey to our friends in Sweden, good day our friends in Australia, and in Jamaica we say, enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us and have a great day, and bye for now. Thanks for joining us. Ode to Joy from Beethoven. And obviously was not perfect, but could actually play it still. And it's also interesting because it's the easiest song, one of the easiest songs to play on the guitar, one of the first. So I encourage you to consider getting an instrument and playing a little bit. From a mental health standpoint, the instruments can be great as well. Thanks once again for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Come on, Tesla, for the 1300.